in many different ways, and to raise awareness of hate crime and encourage you to report it. This year's campaign focuses on the nighttime economy. This includes taxi and private hire drivers, retail sales staff for convenience and hot food, and the security staff working at licensed premises. Although our campaign is aimed at nighttime economy workers, it is important to know that hate crime can happen to anyone at any time. Hate crime happens in many different ways and can include someone shouting and swearing at you or threatening you, offensive graffiti, or physical attacks or receiving online abuse. There are 5 groups currently protected by hate crime legislation. They are disability, race, religion, sexual orientation and transgender identity. Police Scotland treats hate crime very seriously.
Unless you're a white man.
Hate crime in any form is never acceptable. If hate crime happens to you, or you're aware of it happening to someone else, please report it. We will treat you with respect, we will fully investigate the incident, and we will do all we can to bring offenders to justice. Hate crime can have significant impacts on victims, witnesses, and wider communities. What may seem like a minor incident can have a major impact. Please don't ignore hate crime. You can report hate crime in different ways. Phone 101 or 999 in an emergency. Use our online.
Quality in name only at the end of the day, as it wasn't too long ago the Scottish Government rejected calls, or at the very least a suggestion that's been in Parliament, to go about having the same sort of protections for Christians in Scotland, the same sort of protections that Muslims in Scotland seem to have. And Islamophobia is now an accepted definition in Scotland, and yet there's nothing to protect Christians. The same as there's nothing to protect white males, because that would put a lot of feminists out of a job. Misogyny isn't on the hate crime list, but that doesn't stop women, I wouldn't have thought, mass reporting, because feminists seem to be offended at everything these days. Nonetheless, digressing. The point is though, this is nothing more than government enforced cotton wool for minority groups under the guise of equality for all, when realistically it's not. I have no issue with what would be considered a hate crime of old, but the goalposts well and truly shifted a long time ago, and they continue to be expanded even with this, because not only now is it grounds to phone the police and report a hate crime if you feel or perceive an incident to have occurred because of said prejudice, but now a bystander can phone the police and report a hate crime if they feel like what they witnessed happening to somebody else happened as a result of some form of prejudice and or hatred. And in a society that seems to be rampant with left-wing ideologues that seem to think everybody's a fascist and a neo-Nazi, you can fucking bet your bottom dollar there's a hell of a lot of reports that are being funneled into the police station. If you're reporting hate crime, you will be taken very seriously. I bet you are. It will be fully investigated and you will be treated with respect, and even if it never results in a criminal case or a conviction of any sort, it will still go in the statistics to make it look as if a hate crime bump is on the rise. The police encourage anyone who's witnessed or been the victim of a hate crime, whether because of their race, religion, disability, sexual orientation or transgender identity, to report it. Now, unless the person who is the instigator in any particular incident we're speaking about here has said something out loud that gave the game away as to the reason for why they have become somewhat volatile or argumentative or offensive or whatnot. But if they don't give you a reason for why the confrontation or whatever it may be has occurred, then it's really just an assumption on your part. So you phone the police because you think that an incident or that incident happened to you because of X, Y and Z, and it gets taken somewhat seriously by the police. And then I don't even understand how the police can prove one way or the other unless the instigator in said scenario, as I said something aloud. But if it's basically going on assumptions and perceptions, I can't help but wonder just how much of this is a bit flawed. Because at the end of the day, there's a constant obsession with trying to convince minorities within society that they are forever oppressed and every single day is another barrier to their life. Backwards. In your attempts to promote equality and inclusion for all, you're doing a hell of a lot to fucking divide. It's almost as if it's done deliberately. It's only through reporting hate crime that we can form a more complete picture of the issue and address it in the most robust manner. There are a number of reasons why people don't report hate crimes, including the normalisation of this kind of behaviour. What? It shouldn't just be part of life. It's not part of your job, and alcohol is no excuse. People across Scotland are being asked to play their part in eradicating hate crime. Well, that's a great responsibility to undertake for yourself. What great initiative is that, to eradicate hate crime, first and foremost, when a good portion of the hate crimes in question don't exist. The goalposts are forever expanding, and a lot of it is just government pandering policy. It's important to report hate crimes, as in doing so, it can be a means to prevent the same thing happening again to someone else, and together we can work to rid Scotland of hate. Oh, these fucking words. Yeah, it's just riddled with left-wing dribble. And it's really hard to differentiate true hatefulness in a society, or certain aspects of a society, from the fabricated, make-believe variation of hate that constitutes absolutely every single thing that lefties disapprove of. There's an element of stupidity clear as day regarding this hatred of motivation as the first question that you will be faced with when you come on here to report the perils of your day. You know, if somebody robs your house, you don't give your reason as to why you think or you perceive the person who robbed your house to have done it for. I think he was poor. I think he was in debt. I think he was just a dick. Whatever it may be. I think he did it out of spite, so on and so forth. But yet, if somebody does something to you that you don't necessarily like, you get to phone the police and you get to ponder on the motivation behind why that person said or did what they did. Even if that thought never actually crossed their minds. But yet, you get to phone the police and you get to think about what their motivation was. You get to report it. The statistic will be added on and the police will go on their fucking merry way to arrest the person, potentially, under the guise of a hate crime. All because we need to crack down on the supposed rampant hatred that's crippling our society. For all the years the SNP, the progressive gurus, have been in charge of our country, there's a hell of a lot of hatred and animosity and all the rest of it. Rather strange if you ask me. Anyway, it appears there's also a Islamophobia project going on in Edinburgh currently. Unaware of this, but nothing surprises me anymore. Remains to be seen. But I do have a bit of issue with the fact that this equality that they speak of never seems to be extended to everybody in society. Compassion and inclusive measures that are being put forth to make life easier for minorities, or Muslims in particular in this case, all very well and good, but at the end of the day it's not reciprocated worldwide at all in the slightest, and I do have a bit of an issue with it in that regard, considering there is no consideration, not even close to the levels of consideration shown to Christians and Jews in Muslim predominant countries in comparison to the special treatment they seem to be getting here. And if anything, it's sending a very strange message across society that these people seem to be getting prioritised over the rest of society. And that's the exact same problem that has led to an even bigger problem, which is, as still to this day, brewing beneath the surface down in England. And it seems as if the Scottish Government are hell-bent. On following in the footsteps of England for more reasons, a few more reasons than one. After all, as it says here, serving a changing Scotland to address